I love hearing these ideas and examples because I've noticed when I hear them and when others do, boom, their brain sparks off ways to start solving this stuff.
It's one thing to know an idea.
Yep.
It's a whole nother thing to actually put it at the top of your lexicon, at the top of your to-do list, at the top of your priority list. It is about being more thoughtful rather than blend in with the script of how companies think charities will interact with them. What could I do that's a bit different, that at some level will send a bit of the story or a bit of the reason for why I would love to meet you for coffee? Wow often is not about crazy, creative and epic.
No.
It is usually more likely to be thoughtful and, crucially, the fact that you managed to get it done. Hello and welcome to the Fundraising Bright Spots podcast. This is episode 154. This is the podcast for fundraisers who want ideas and maybe a little dose of inspiration to help you raise more money and really enjoy your job. And just before I get into it, I want to say a quick shout out to all you wonderful people who've been spreading the word about this show. As you might be aware, we plug away, we spend quite a lot of effort creating this show, and I'm doing my best to keep the episodes coming. So I'm always so grateful to all you wonderful people who let other people know about this content. So just recently, I remember that Max, Gemma from Henshaw's, Zoe, Angie, and actually lots of other people have been kindly talking about it on LinkedIn and on Twitter and so on. So I'm sorry if I have missed you out. I know there are other people, but just do know that I do appreciate your help in helping more and more good causes with these ideas and stories. This time, I'm again joined by my colleague and friend from Brightspot, Ben. How are you?
Hi, Rob. I'm very good, thank you. I'm really enjoying these cathartic chats on ways to solve core and often challenges for fundraisers.
Yeah, we've done a couple recently. I really enjoyed the chats as well. And I think one of the things we were thinking that would help people to give an episode to was more ideas on how on earth can we get our foot in the door? How on earth can we get that first chat with a supporter?
Yeah, I love the other chats we've had, especially the one helping people to focus on the most valuable companies, donors, prospects for them. That's one thing to say. The other thing is lots of people ask the question, well, Ben, when I don't have a relationship with them, or when I've barely met them, maybe I met them once many months ago, what is it that I should do? I feel like I've tried everything, Rob. And I love that lots of the ideas and things we've covered on the mastery courses and that you've noticed that them brave fundraisers have done. I love hearing these ideas and examples because I've noticed when I hear them and when others do, boom, their brain sparks off ways to start solving this stuff. So when somebody says, how on earth do I get these conversations with some of my supporters, Rob, what are things that spring to your mind?
Okay, so one of them just springs to mind is that I got a message just a week ago. It was the day after I'd spoke about the importance of this at our breakfast club for fundraising leaders. And I got a message on LinkedIn from a really excellent fundraiser. She's very experienced. She's very successful. And she messaged me to say, Rob, thanks so much for talking about the importance of focusing on getting coffees with our supporters in Breakfast Club yesterday. This morning, I just got on that. It's lunchtime and I've booked 4 new coffees. So what I think my point is it's one thing to know an idea.
Yep.
It's a whole nother thing to actually put it at the top of your lexicon, at the top of your to-do list, at the top of your priority list. However experienced we are, we still need to remind ourselves of what the fundamentals are. You know, sports stars I've studied, people like in rugby, Johnny Wilkinson, how many tens of thousands of times have these people practiced their skill? For instance, the skill of a drop kick or kicking a ball over some posts. They've done it hundreds of thousands of times, and yet on the big day in the World Cup final, what do they focus on? They remind themselves of the fundamentals. They just go through the pattern, go through the routine of what they do, whether it's in the practice ground or in front of, millions of people. You still practice the fundamentals. So I think my first message to our listeners is, even though you've probably heard Ben or I talk about this idea of, rather than chase the money, which your colleagues might want you to do, or, oh, how are we going to win a new partnership? Practice the fundamentals of asking yourself a better question. How could I add value to this existing supporter? Or indeed, how could I increase the chances of getting a quick phone call, a quick chat, a quick coffee? Sometimes we refer to that as a test drive. How could I increase the chances that they'd say yes to an invitation to come to a free event with us? If you focus on this easier to manage thing, which frankly is easier for you to do and easier for them to say yes to, and is in a way more generous, so you'll be braver with it because you're adding value to them rather than taking any money in particular. Even if you know this intellectually in theory, I know through the busyness of life all too easily I might forget what I know, or rather not practice what I know. So that's point one. I've got a couple of more surprising stories in a minute, but few things are as important as just practice the fundamentals. And in the other episode Ben and I created, Ben talked about one of the people he coaches on our mastery program making sure they printed out a list with the logos of the 10 companies they wanted to have coffees with. And they had it in their notebook. And it wasn't a coincidence that a month later, they had made some progress because it was always there every time they opened their notebook. Again, this is another version of this same truth. Put it front of mind. Put it as a screensaver on your phone. Have the wanted poster of those 10 companies you'd love to deepen relationships with on your notice board if possible. If you're a major donor fundraiser or a community fundraiser, have your equivalent of those 10 names or those 10 WIs, independent schools, Rotary clubs, community groups. Have it front of mind, printed out, and then it's just so much more likely that that'll get higher up the top of your to-do list than if those names are languishing, with everything else 4 clicks away in the J drive of your computer.
I love that, Rob. And I can see how immediately after 20 minutes of you reminding people of that fact, I'm interested. Again, it's one thing for an experienced major gift fundraiser to be like, gosh, I'm so pleased you reminded me of that. I'm going to wake up the next day, block my diary out and do the things that I know I can do to help get coffees and conversations. If I'm not as experienced as this brilliant major gift fundraiser, what are some other things that you've noticed? And I love this, listener, because whenever I hear and others hear some of these stories, it sparks off ideas in them that I know will help them get test drives. What are some things that you've seen?
Great question, Ben. Actually, on both Major Gifts Mastery and Corporate Partnerships Mastery, we share 5 or 6 strong, effective strategies to help you get more of these conversations. And some of them are easier than others. Some require a little more courage and confidence, and some require a little more creativity than others. Some are ways of wowing people into absolutely they can't help but get back to you. Some of them involve a particular elegant, effective way of deliberately working with informal ambassadors who are well connected, who help you get these conversations. So there are a range of ways. Some of them are about certain things you say on the phone and in a certain way, especially in the first 45 seconds of that phone call, that we found are unbelievably effective in increasing the chances that an existing partner, donor, or a potential one would love to make time to chat to you. So there's lots of different ways. But right now, I just wanted to share a couple that I heard recently from a fabulous fundraiser called Gemma, who works for a hospice. And she's currently on our Corporate Partnerships Mastery program. And she shared with me a couple of things she's been doing with her colleague recently. One of them is in line with her strategy of just becoming the favourite hospice and favourite charity of businesses in her local community, is she just pays attention to when there's a local business awards, maybe in the Chamber of Commerce or similar organising body. And what she started doing is sending a lovely, colourful postcard on brand. And the gist of the postcard is it's got a beautiful little handprint from one of their ambassadors. I think he's 10 years old. And he both makes use of the hospices services, and he's given his handprint kindly. And the gist of the message on the postcard is high five from us. your local hospice or similar. And she started sending those cards to any of the local companies that win in the business awards, including, and even ones she doesn't yet have any connection with. And really pretty easy to do once you've got a nice asset, a nice card to send, nice handwritten note. Congratulations from your local hospice. If you'd like to have a coffee about how we could do something together, here's my email address. I'd love to chat. And Gemma, last time I spoke to her, she said that's generated 3 conversations, 3 cups of coffee with businesses that she didn't have before she used the tactic.
I love that, Rob. And again, I can hear some fundraisers asking themselves whether, like, I'm not sure how I'll do that. I don't have children to put a hand on a card. But I guess it's not about the specific thing she's doing. It's more around the way she's thinking through interacting with the donor. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think some people will have heard the example I gave about Emily from a hospice, and she wanted to improve the wow factor of her Christmas cards, but she didn't know what to do. She searched around, and then the penny dropped. She found that the last December, some penguins had been brought to the hospice for the children to meet and pet, and she used this beautiful photograph of a cute penguin as her new Christmas card. As you said at the time, it's not about the penguin.
No.
I'd say it's not about the handprint. It is about being more thoughtful rather than blend in with the script of how companies think charities will interact with them. What could I do that's a bit different, that at some level will send a bit of the story or a bit of the reason for why I would love to meet you for coffee? And I can't tell you what the answer will be for any given charity that is listening. Before Emily got that idea, no one else was doing it either.
Yeah.
Before Gemma got this idea, and I'm not aware of another charity doing it either. So rather than list another 19 things we could copy identically, my intention is more just to ask you to say, how could we stand out? How could we do things a little differently? You know, similar to that episode we did about Matt Zakiri being determined to stand out in his applications to a given funder, and just finding a way to make his application look like a conversation between two people rather than fit into the expected script that everyone was looking for. So there's an infinite number of ways you can change the look or feel so that it leaps out, so that you in some way include an element of the story. Another example is from Gemma. Maybe this one is easier for many people. She wanted not so much to reach out to new companies or donors, but she really wanted to help her existing supporters, corporate supporters, in February feel appreciated, because they'd just been working so hard for the whole year, and then they'd just done the sometimes laborious process of counting it all up and sending in the money for the year. And she wanted to go the extra mile to help people feel appreciated for doing this on top of their day job. I think her colleague's called Leah. Anyway, between the two of them, they had this idea of not sending some chocolate, but they noticed that the catering department at their charity, at their hospice, in February was doing a promotion whereby you could buy this beautiful package of Valentine's chocolate brownies and cupcakes and so on. It's beautifully designed, as well as delicious, apparently. The catering team was selling these, and Gemma used a tiny bit of budget. I mean, I know that's not all our listeners have any budget for stewardship and so on, but she had a bit of budget she could use for her corporate fundraising. She bought 15 or so of these lovely Valentine's packs, and then crucially, she didn't send them off. She and her colleague went out and they delivered by hand to these 14 or 15 generous, hardworking companies. And she said, you know, we were really busy at the time. Like, we could barely fit it in, but honestly, it was the best decision, Rob, I could have made for us to actually go out and about and do them in hand, because I got to see people's faces. These two women in this small office to do with a business-to-business supplier across the year for their local hospice, they'd, through hard work and love, they'd managed to raise £6,000, the two of them. And we appeared unannounced to tell them how much we appreciated it in Valentine's week with these chocolate brownies all done up nicely. And you should have seen their faces. They literally said, no charities ever thanked us anywhere near like this before. And if you think about it, they probably haven't. But I think that they've been doing this kind of process for years and years for various charities. A, what a generous thing Gemma and her colleague did. B, how special must it have felt? C, she said every single one of those 15, A, it was clearly appreciated, not just a bit appreciated, but people loved it. They felt so good. But also, we had a chat. We had 15 conversations we wouldn't already have had in my parlance. And high quality ones. She said at least 2 of them said, oh my goodness, this is amazing, because you might not know it, but my mum is in your hospice at the moment. More than once, there were conversations where Gemma discovered things like that about why people at the company especially cared, and other really valuable information, to do with one of them recently had been taken over and so on. That's useful information for a fundraiser to be aware of in terms of potentially being more understanding or more supportive of a company partnering if it's got big stuff going on. I really like this one because it's not crazy levels of creativity. It's just, and how could we, rather than send a thank you email or rather than send a thank you card, although that's great, how could we send a really excellent card that includes a story where the photo on the front, like Emily did, is more likely to bring people closer to the story of what this is all about? Or how could we send a bespoke thank you film? Lots of fundraisers I know, and certainly ones on our programs, go the extra mile to create these bespoke thank you films. They don't even need to be that sophisticated, but just ways where you and several of your colleagues are saying thank you to the company or the donor or the trust. We get so much feedback of what a difference that makes. Most of these things are not so much creativity. There's no puppy or penguin. Yeah. They really are, though. They're easier to say than do. The power is in the going of the extra mile. I think it wasn't the tastiness of the chocolate brownie that made those people feel so good on that day, although great to do high quality things rather than scrimp and do cheap things. Honestly, I think even more powerful than the beautiful red bow and how delicious the cupcakes were, I think the power is that it's that old thing, the thought that counts. Because in this very busy life, so much of things, as Grant Leboff was saying recently, do become more transactional, do become more remote. Everybody's busy. We know how hard it is to fit in these extra touches in our fundraising, in our relationships, in conversations. So as and when you, as a fundraiser, can fit one activity in per week where you do something that's not so much efficient, it might take twice as long to do it really well, to do it bespoke, to do it personally. The reason it works so well is because people can tell the difference. So on our Wow Your Donors course, I do share some extraordinary examples of creativity that just blow my mind for how amazing and creative some of the people on our mastery programs can be. I love those, but my punchline always comes back to what Rachel Catola told me on episode 100 of this podcast. The gist of the story in episode 100, someone had been giving £50 per month and occasionally once a year gave £1,000. And when Rachel started supporting that donor and stewarding that donor, she just did what to her was obvious. A nice thank you card, a thoughtful, quick handwritten thank you card, and always trying to make a thank you call. And when possible, see if that person would like a cup of coffee to hear more about the difference his gift had made. That's all she did. I say all because it's not easy. It's hard to do those things consistently. But the reason I share this story now is Rachel, she said to me, I had thought that Wow Your Donors, create wow moments. It's about these extraordinary epic things, these creative things people would never have expected. And what I realised when I met him for coffee, and I said, part of the story is he stopped giving £50 a month. He started giving £1,000 a month. When she met him for coffee, say, thank you for being so generous now that you're giving 20 times per more. Like, thank you. And what happened? And he said, I tell you what happened is that first time I got a handwritten note, lovely card from you, and it dropped onto my doormat alongside 2 bills and, some marketing information I hadn't asked for. And I opened it first. And it was just thoughtfully written, talking about this thing. And it made me feel good. It made me feel so good. And it was so unexpected in the context of what usually comes through my letterbox that I specifically called out to the other room, to my wife, come and have a look at this. Look at what Rachel sent me from the hospice. So Rachel said that's the moment when she got this insight. Wow, often is not about crazy, creative and epic.
No.
It is usually more likely to be thoughtful and, crucially, the fact that you managed to get it done. By the way, postscript to this story, I spoke to Rachel again just the other week, and she said she's been carrying on meeting him for coffee, and he now gives £2,000 per month,
Wow.
£1,000. But again, that's, I hope, will help our listeners understand what we're saying.
Yeah.
There are actually lots of ways of managing to get a conversation with a new potential supporter and an existing supporter. I get that it's easier to have a conversation with an existing one than a new one. So start there. They still count on the monthly coffeeometer, in my view. So start there. You get so much momentum from doing these fundamental things like go the extra mile, do a generous thing. Just send a WhatsApp, send a text to say thank you. If it happens to include a photo or a little snapshot, 30-second film like Linda used to do at Animals Asia, so much the better. But Linda said, you never need a good excuse to thank people.
No.
They're generous. So just set the bar low for what the excuse might be for letting them know how appreciated they are. If you start there, I've found you tend to get more creative, brave, and proactive at doing other tactics for reaching out to new people, seeing who else your existing fans or friends or ambassadors could invite to your next event. You get better at those other things for finding coffees with new if you just start with the fundamentals of the people who already care.
Yeah. I love these ideas, Rob. And, it chimes really well with the chat we had previously where you asked people to get a pen and on your pad write, how can I possibly deepen this relationship or these relationships or relationships with people, which shifts our focus. And I can say lots of the people that I talk to before they start working with us, something that's going through their brain most of the time is we're struggling to get income. I'm not sure where the money's going to come from. I don't know how I'm going to get meetings. And if she'd walked into the cafeteria and in her brain was the overriding thought, we're all struggling with money at the moment, and she'd seen a pile of cake that wasn't being sold, oh God, even the cafeteria's struggling with money at the moment, and she'd walk, or maybe I'll buy one or two and she'd walk past. But if she's primed her brain to say, hey, what can I possibly do to deepen relationships today? I'll buy these and I'll give them to 15 people. What can I possibly do to deepen a relationship today? I was talking to somebody there's someone who emails them once a year asking for posters for a campaign that helps with symptoms of this particular disease. And after she emails asking for posters, she finds it really, really, really hard to get a coffee or a conversation in with her because she only seems to want to talk to the charity when she has posters to help distribute amongst her staff. She works for a company that's a small part of one of those companies like Unilever or Procter & Gamble who made it onto their list. And when she thought through, what can I possibly do to deepen the relationship? Well, when she asked me for the poster, rather than just keep sending her information and links to the website like I doing what she said, I'll pick up the phone and call her and have a chat, and bingo, that's led to more coffees and conversations. And but it starts with, what can I possibly do to deepen this relationship? Oh, turn anything into a conversation or a test drive. And sometimes that makes you feel more creative because you see that anything in the cakes that you have or in other things or in the way you write thank you cards. In other cases, it's just they've emailed me with a tricky question about volunteering. Oh gosh, what am I going to reply? I'll pick up the phone and turn it into a test drive. Anyway, I love that when you do what we do, which is slightly obsess about each and every tiny element of this, you realise that together, when you start compounding them, oh, no wonder that helps me. And you're right. When they then walk around and deliver the cakes, it's a better day. They feel more confident. And if this whole game isn't just the skills, it's our state and behaviour and confidence, I love that it compounds towards that. And genuinely, Rob, that's one of my favourite things about the mastery courses is watching this happen live.
Yes, thank you for those extra takes on it, Ben. I think so much of it isn't even about some crazy clever strategy. It's realising the emails you're getting on a daily basis, the queries you're getting on a daily basis, some of them actually could turn into a conversation if you're looking to do that. Even if you're inviting people to an event, when people get back to you because they can or can't come, even that can be, if you're looking for it, you can invite someone to just jump on a quick Zoom or a phone call with you rather than as a better way of solving those queries. So when the mindset shifts, you find extra reasons to get chats with people, even very tiny, short chats with people, where before you were more obediently responding to emails in the direct way people appeared to be asking for. There's so many different ways. There's event strategies, there's ambassador strategies, there's social media, there's LinkedIn, there's using authority power. There's so many different ways we can increase the chances of building relationships, getting these conversations, far more than we've got time to do justice today. But we do know it is one of the fundamental reasons why people who come on both our main programs grow in confidence, get momentum, and grow results, is because they start to have more chats with the right places. Occasionally, the results are extraordinary. I remember in episode 33, Paul Davies talked about quadrupling the number of chats he was having from about 4 or 5 a month to 20 chats per month. So clearly not everyone's going to quadruple. Everyone's got a different database. Everyone's got a different situation. But really, after doing these programs for 10 years, almost everyone who comes on the programs at least doubles the number of chats they have with donors and or companies. Of course, it helps when you get to those chats doing certain things, and we teach lots of that on the programs as well. But if all you did is double the number of chats you get with donors and companies, it's not hard to see confidence and momentum goes up, and some of those donors, companies, sooner or later want to partner or want to give. Anyway, if people want to find out more and really go deep on this on our Corporate Mastery or our Major Gifts Mastery program, do check out the information on our website, brightspotfundraising.co.uk/services. As always, we'll put a transcript and a short summary of today's episode on the podcast section of our website, so do check that out as well if you like. Thank you ever so much to everyone who shares these shows so generously. If you like this and you think it would help colleagues or other people, please do spread the word. Thank you ever so much for your help doing that. Thank you, as always, to the brilliant Ben Swart for coming and sharing your wisdom and teeing up these really interesting challenges for me to think about. As always, I really appreciate it. Let us know what you think. Both Ben and I are on LinkedIn. We love to receive messages on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Ben is @Ben Swart and I am @Woods_Rob. Most of all, thank you, dear listener, for somehow finding time to keep learning. I know you're busy, but as long as you keep finding some time to learn in any given week, I really think you're winning, and sooner or later it's going to be paying off. So thank you for doing that. I really hope today's episode has helped, and I look forward to sharing another Bright Spot story with you very soon. Bye-bye.